When you wake up every morning, look in the mirror and ask yourself this question: am I living my life as I was created to live it? Or am I settling for mediocrity? Too many people go through life as if they were born to blend in, to follow, to accept the average. But let me tell you something right now: you were not created to be average. There is greatness inside you waiting to break free, waiting for you to step into your potential, waiting for you to refuse the ordinary. If you leave this room today thinking small, you will live small. But if you dare to embrace the extraordinary, your life will never be the same again. Your life is not an accident. You were born with purpose. You were born with gifts that the world is waiting for. The question is, will you honor them or will you hide them? Every person you see walking down the street, sitting in a cafe, or waiting in traffic has a story, a purpose, a unique potential that is entirely their own. Yet so many of us go through life blind to the gifts we carry, believing that we are just like everyone else. We wake up, go to work, scroll through social media, and follow routines that feel safe, forgetting that within us lies something powerful, something rare, something that no one else can offer to the world. Recognize your unique potential not as a vague idea, but as a living reality that demands action. There is a reason why you were born with your eyes, your mind, your hands, your voice, and your dreams. These are not random. They are the tools designed to make your mark. Think about the young girl who loved to draw in the margins of her notebooks while everyone else played games. To the world, she seemed ordinary, wasting time on sketches that no one would notice. But her unique potential was waiting to be discovered. Years later, those same sketches became the foundation of a career in design and art, touching thousands of lives. The difference was not talent alone. It was her decision to recognize her potential when the world told her to fit in. Your life is filled with similar possibilities. The moments you think are small, the habits you practice in private, the gifts you dismiss as unimportant. These are the building blocks of greatness. Sometimes people say, I'm not special, or there's nothing remarkable about me. That is a lie you have been told too many times by voices that do not see your vision. Let me tell you something. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you shrink the gift that is yours. Every time you imitate another person, you mute the power that could be uniquely yours. Imagine a musician trying to sound exactly like another musician. They may play the notes, but they will never create the melody that is waiting inside them. The world does not need another copy. It needs your original, your authentic, your unapologetic self. Look at your hands, look at your mind, look at your passions. There is a pattern, a signature, a blueprint in how you think, how you feel, and how you act that is entirely original. Maybe you wake up every morning feeling a tug in your heart to do something different, something that scares you. That is your potential calling you. Listen to it. Too often we ignore the whispers of our gifts because they require effort, courage, and the risk of being misunderstood. But extraordinary people are those who answer that call. They take the small spark within them and feed it with persistence, with learning, with action. Consider the man who works as a janitor every day, cleaning floors, emptying trash, doing work that most people overlook. To someone passing by, he seems ordinary, invisible even. But when he goes home, he teaches himself online, he writes, he practices public speaking, he studies leadership. The world may not see his effort yet, but his potential is growing, becoming unstoppable. The day comes when he stands on a stage, addresses thousands, inspires millions, and changes the lives of people he has never met. What made him extraordinary was not the job he was born into, but his choice to recognize the power inside him and refuse to let it be wasted. Your potential is also revealed in the way you respond to challenges. When life knocks you down, the ability to rise, the creativity to find solutions, the resilience to keep moving forward. These are all expressions of the power you carry. The student who struggles in class but finds a new way to study and masters the subject is not average. They are beginning to recognize their ability to overcome. The parent who works 2 jobs to provide for their children while still finding time to mentor and teach them is not average. They are discovering that their perseverance, patience, and love are unmatched tools for impact. The world rewards those who see themselves not as victims of circumstance, but as vessels of possibility. Recognizing your unique potential also means seeing value in what others may overlook. The shy person who listens more than they speak may one day become a counselor who heals broken hearts. The quiet thinker who refuses to follow trends may invent a solution that changes industries. The person who always notices details, who cares deeply, who dreams secretly. These traits, dismissed by many, are the seeds of extraordinary outcomes. Every moment you act on the small hints of your unique gifts, you step closer to a life that is not average, a life that fulfills the reason you were placed on this earth. And here is the most important truth. The world cannot give you permission to be extraordinary because the world often celebrates comfort over courage. Permission comes from you. It comes from your decision to believe that your potential is real, to nurture it, to show up every day to practice it, to refine it, to share it. When you recognize your potential, you no longer wait for opportunities, you create them. You no longer fear failure, you use it as fuel to grow. You no longer compare yourself to the ordinary, you rise above it. So today, when you look in the mirror, see more than your reflection. See the blueprint of what you were designed to become. See the ideas, the talents, the strengths that the world is waiting for. See the difference you are meant to make. Every moment you ignore it, every day you settle for less is a day you deny the greatness that was placed in you. Do not waste another sunrise thinking you are average. Do not settle for imitation when the world is waiting for originality. The call to recognize your unique potential is not just a suggestion, it is a responsibility to yourself, a responsibility to your future, and a responsibility to the lives you were created to touch. So many people live their lives quietly accepting less than they deserve. They wake up, go to work, pay bills, go to sleep, and repeat, thinking that this is what life is supposed to be. They settle for jobs that drain them, relationships that limit them, and dreams that they quietly bury because they are afraid of failure or rejection. They settle because it feels safe, because it is familiar, because the world tells them that comfort is enough. But comfort is not a measure of success, and familiarity is not a sign of growth. Greatness never comes from settling. Extraordinary people understand that settling is a slow death of the spirit. Look at the person working at a company for years, feeling underpaid, undervalued, unseen, but afraid to leave because the security feels safe. Every day they go in, they smile, they nod, they do the work, but inside they feel a restlessness that they cannot ignore. Their heart whispers that there is more, that they are capable of more, but they silence it because leaving feels risky. Settling is choosing fear over faith, comfort over courage, convenience over calling. Refusing to settle means listening to that whisper and having the audacity to say, I deserve more. I am capable of more. I will reach higher. Consider the single parent juggling 2 jobs just to make ends meet. On the surface, they are surviving. They are exhausted. They could settle and think this is all life can offer. But some parents refuse to settle. They find ways to educate themselves, to learn skills online, to start small businesses in the evenings, to plan for a future that their children will inherit. Refusing to settle is not about abandoning responsibility. It is about refusing to accept a life that does not reflect your potential. It is choosing to rise above circumstance and carve a path that aligns with your true capabilities. Sometimes refusing to settle is as simple as refusing to accept mediocrity in your mind. The student who barely passes classes, who does the minimum, can choose to settle and continue on autopilot. But the student who refuses to settle stays up late studying, asks questions, practices relentlessly, and seeks mentors. That same student discovers that excellence is not a gift, it is a decision. Excellence is a product of refusing to accept the average, of saying no to shortcuts, of understanding that the world will only respect what you are willing to work for. Look at relationships. So many people settle for love that does not lift them, friendships that drain them, partnerships that diminish their dreams. Settling in relationships is a trap because it convinces you that being comfortable is enough when, in reality, it is suffocating your growth. Refusing to settle means having the courage to demand respect, to demand honesty, to demand companionship that fuels your vision instead of stifling it. It means walking away from people who cannot celebrate your greatness, because your potential cannot thrive in an environment of limitation or negativity. Refusing to settle also requires refusing to settle in your habits and mindset. The person who complains about life, who scrolls endlessly through social media, who feeds on negativity, is settling for mental stagnation. Refusing to settle means choosing growth every day. It means reading, learning, exercising your mind and body, seeking new experiences, and surrounding yourself with people who inspire and challenge you. It is refusing to accept that your past defines you, that circumstances determine your future, or that anyone else can set the ceiling for your life. Consider the story of the small town entrepreneur who starts a business with limited resources, mocked by others, doubted by friends, and beaten down by failures. Settling would have been quitting after the first setback, after the first financial loss, after the first criticism. But refusing to settle meant continuing, adapting, learning from mistakes, and persisting until the business grew into something impactful. Refusing to settle is not about avoiding hardship. It is about refusing to let hardship define you or limit what you can achieve. It is about understanding that failure is temporary, but the decision to persist creates permanent results. Even in daily choices, refusing to settle makes a difference. The person who chooses to cook a healthy meal instead of eating fast food, who chooses to wake up early instead of hitting snooze, who chooses to speak words of encouragement instead of complaint, who chooses to practice their craft instead of wasting time, these are small acts of refusing to settle. Greatness is not born in grand gestures alone. It is built in the daily decisions to refuse the ordinary, to challenge complacency, and to honor the potential within you. Refusing to settle means rejecting the notion that life owes you nothing but what is easy. It is claiming ownership of your dreams and refusing to compromise on your worth. It is understanding that your potential demands action, that your gifts deserve cultivation, and that your life deserves to be more than just survival. It is a declaration to yourself every morning that you will not accept mediocrity, that you will not allow fear, laziness, or doubt to determine your story, and that you are destined for something extraordinary that cannot be realized through settling. It is in this refusal, in this daily courage, in this relentless pursuit of more, that the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, and a life once confined by comfort and compromise is liberated to achieve heights that once seemed impossible. So many people go through life blaming circumstances, other people, or even fate for where they are. They wake up every morning and complain about the traffic, the economy, their bosses, their families, or the lack of opportunities. They point fingers and say, if only this, if only that, as if the power to change their lives lies entirely outside of them. But the truth is, nothing will change until you take full responsibility for your own life. Embracing responsibility is not about guilt or punishment. It is about recognizing that your decisions, your actions, and your mindset shape your destiny. Consider the young man working a job he dislikes. He might think, was born into the wrong family, I didn't get the right education, life is unfair. He could spend years complaining, envying others, and blaming the system for his stagnation. But embracing responsibility means looking in the mirror and saying, I am the author of my story. I can choose what to learn, who to meet, how to act, and where to go. It means taking ownership of the hours he spends each day, the skills he develops, the attitude he cultivates, and the relationships he nurtures. It is not easy, but it is powerful because once you stop blaming, you begin creating. Look at a student who struggles in school. It would be easy for them to blame teachers, parents, or peers for low grades. It would be easy to say, the system doesn't care about me. But embracing responsibility means sitting down, studying harder, asking questions, seeking help, and taking control of the learning process. Every time they make a deliberate effort to improve, they are shaping their future. They are taking responsibility not only for their performance, but for the life that their education can unlock. Parents are another daily example. Raising children is one of the greatest responsibilities a person can have. Yet some parents ignore their role, blaming their children's behavior on school's friends or technology. Embracing responsibility means understanding that your words, your actions, your patience, and your guidance directly influence the people your children become. It is the choice to model integrity, to teach discipline, to nurture dreams, and to be present even when it is inconvenient. Responsibility in parenting is not a burden. It is an investment in the future of the next generation. In the workplace, embracing responsibility separates leaders from followers. The person who takes responsibility for mistakes, who finds solutions instead of excuses, who goes beyond the call of duty, rises naturally above the ordinary. It is the difference between saying, this is not my problem, and saying, what can I do to make this better? It is the difference between passing blame and creating results. The world respects those who own their outcomes, who face challenges with accountability, and who refuse to hide behind excuses. Consider a person facing financial struggles. They might blame the economy, inflation, or bad luck for their situation. Embracing responsibility means tracking expenses, learning financial literacy, making smarter choices, seeking advice, and developing multiple streams of income. It is not a one-time action, but a continuous commitment to own every financial decision, no matter how small. The moment you take responsibility for your money, it no longer controls you. You control it. Even in personal growth, responsibility is key. Your thoughts, your habits, your emotions, they are your responsibility. The person who chooses to spend hours on social media complaining about life, the person who constantly compares themselves to others, the person who ignores their health and mindset, they are avoiding responsibility for the one thing they can control themselves. Embracing responsibility means cultivating self-discipline, feeding your mind with knowledge, protecting your energy, and investing in your body and soul. It means understanding that your quality of life is the result of your daily choices, not external circumstances. Look at small acts in daily life. The driver who obeys traffic rules, the worker who completes a task without being reminded, the neighbor who helps when needed, the friend who keeps their promises. These are all forms of embracing responsibility. Greatness is built in the details, in the choices you make when no one is watching. Each act of accountability strengthens character, builds trust, and prepares you for the bigger responsibilities that life will inevitably bring. Embracing responsibility also means owning your dreams. The person who waits for someone else to give permission to start, to act, to lead, is living in limitation. Taking responsibility means saying, I am responsible for my own success. I am responsible for the life I desire. I am responsible for pursuing my vision and making it real. When you embrace responsibility, you stop being a passive observer of life and become an active creator. It shifts your perspective from victimhood to empowerment, from hesitation to action, from ordinary to extraordinary. It is in the consistent choice to take ownership of every decision, every action, every consequence that you build a life of purpose. Embracing responsibility transforms challenges into opportunities, failures into lessons, and limitations into stepping stones for growth. It is the secret that separates those who dream from those who achieve, those who complain from those who conquer, and those who wait from those who lead. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and reality, yet so many people underestimate its power. They wake up every day, complain about their circumstances, and wonder why nothing changes. They want success, they want growth, they want respect, but they are unwilling to do the work consistently. Discipline is not about punishment or restriction. It is about commitment, focus, and the courage to keep moving forward even when motivation fades. The person who develops unstoppable discipline understands that greatness is not a gift. It is earned through daily choices that others are too weak, too lazy, or too distracted to make. Consider the student who dreams of excelling in school. At first, studying for hours feels tedious, and everyone else is out enjoying themselves. Discipline is what allows them to sit at their desk, read the material, solve problems, and practice repeatedly. Over time, these small acts compound, transforming their ability and confidence. The disciplined student does not wait for inspiration to strike. They understand that mastery comes from repetition, from showing up consistently, and from refusing to quit when things get uncomfortable. Look at athletes. They train every day, often in conditions that most people would avoid. They wake up before dawn, they push through pain, they sacrifice social events, and they follow routines that demand both mental and physical endurance. They do this not because they always feel like it, but because they are committed to a vision. Unstoppable discipline is what turns raw talent into world records, what transforms ambition into medals, and what allows ordinary humans to achieve extraordinary feats. Even in the workplace, discipline separates the average from the exceptional. The employee who arrives on time, completes tasks thoroughly, anticipates challenges, and continues to learn on their own is building habits that cannot be taken away. Their growth is not immediate, but over months and years, it compounds into trust, respect, and opportunity. Discipline means doing the things that are difficult, tedious, or inconvenient because you understand that they are the foundation of long-term success. It is refusing to be swayed by distractions, temptations, or excuses, and staying committed to the actions that lead to results. Parents demonstrate discipline every day in small but impactful ways. Waking up in the middle of the night for a crying baby, preparing meals even when exhausted, balancing multiple responsibilities, and providing guidance to children all require consistency and endurance. They may not call it discipline, but every deliberate, patient, and consistent action is a manifestation of it. Discipline is not always visible, but its impact is undeniable. Children grow up learning perseverance, responsibility, and focus simply because their parents commit to showing up regardless of how they feel. Consider the entrepreneur starting a business from scratch. There are no guarantees, the hours are long, and failures are frequent. Discipline is what keeps them going when the first product fails, when clients reject proposals, when money is tight. It is what allows them to study competitors, refine strategies, and continue networking even when tired. While others give up or procrastinate, the disciplined entrepreneur continues to take small steps every day, and these consistent actions eventually turn into breakthroughs. Discipline is the engine that converts effort into impact, dreams into reality, and setbacks into growth. Even in personal habits, discipline is transformative. The person who chooses to exercise regularly, eat healthily, practice mindfulness, or limit distractions demonstrates unstoppable discipline. These choices are small in isolation, but massive in their cumulative effect. Every day they resist immediate gratification for long-term gain. They teach themselves self-control, and they reinforce the understanding that their future is a product of the choices they make today. Discipline is the silent architect of a life of purpose and achievement. Consider the writer who dreams of publishing a book. Inspiration may come irregularly, but discipline means showing up at the keyboard every day, writing even when tired, editing even when frustrated, and pushing through the fear of imperfection. It is the consistency of action, the refusal to procrastinate, and the commitment to craft that transforms ideas into words, words into chapters, and chapters into a completed book that can change lives. Discipline is what turns potential into legacy. Discipline is also mental. It is the ability to control your thoughts, your reactions, and your emotions. When life challenges you, when people criticize you, when setbacks occur, the disciplined person responds strategically rather than reactively. They do not allow anger, doubt, or fear to control their decisions. They remain focused on the end goal, consistent in their efforts, and resilient in their mindset. This mental discipline is what allows them to navigate adversity and emerge stronger. Discipline is not easy because it demands patience, endurance, and self-control. It requires doing what others will not do when others are distracted, tired, or tempted to quit. It is built through daily practice, through refusing to allow excuses to dictate your actions, and through prioritizing long-term vision over short-term comfort. Those who cultivate unstoppable discipline are the ones who rise above chaos, overcome obstacles, and achieve what others only dream about. Discipline is not punishment, it is empowerment. It allows you to harness your potential, to shape your destiny, to turn intentions into results. It is the daily choices, the consistent actions, the small sacrifices repeated over time that build momentum, character, and excellence. It is the heartbeat of extraordinary achievement, the silent force behind leaders, innovators, and visionaries. The person who masters discipline does not rely on luck, opportunity, or motivation. They rely on themselves, their commitment, and their refusal to let anything derail their focus. So many people go through life setting small, safe goals that barely stretch them. They aim for what feels easy, achievable, or socially acceptable. They settle for comfort instead of challenge, mediocrity instead of greatness. But the extraordinary person understands that ordinary goals produce ordinary results, and the only way to achieve something remarkable is to set audacious goals, goals that excite you, scare you, and push you beyond everything you thought was possible. Audacious goals are not reckless. They are deliberate declarations of what you believe you are capable of becoming. Consider the young woman who dreams of owning a business. Instead of aiming for a small shop in her neighborhood, she dares to envision a company that serves thousands, that innovates, that changes her industry. At first, the vision seems impossible. People tell her she is dreaming too big. Her family worries she might fail. Her friends suggest a safer path. But audacious goals are never about fitting in. They are about stepping into your potential. She begins to plan, study, network, and take calculated risks because she knows that small goals will never produce extraordinary results. Look at the student who wants to change their world. They could set a goal to simply pass classes and graduate, which would be comfortable and easy. But the one who dares to aim higher sets goals, to excel in leadership, to innovate projects that help their community, and to achieve honors that will open doors beyond what anyone else imagines. Audacious goals require vision, persistence, and courage because they force you to grow into the person capable of achieving them. They demand creativity, resilience, and strategic thinking because they will challenge every limit you thought you had. Audacious goals are often revealed in daily life through the choices people make when everyone else is taking the easy road. The athlete who trains for the Olympics, waking up at dawn to run in the cold, to push through pain, to perfect their technique, sets audacious goals that most would call unrealistic. Their commitment turns dreams into achievements because the goal is big enough to demand extraordinary effort. Without audacious goals, ordinary effort produces ordinary lives. But with bold targets, effort becomes extraordinary. Parents also set audacious goals for their families. They may dream not just of surviving financially, but of creating generational wealth, sending their children to the best schools, and giving them opportunities that were never available to themselves. They sacrifice sleep, leisure, and comfort because they understand that only big goals create big change. Audacious goals require a mindset that sees beyond present limitations and imagines a future that others cannot yet see. Look at entrepreneurs who revolutionize industries. They do not start by aiming to have one small shop or to earn just enough to pay the bills. They start with audacious goals to create a brand that dominates globally, to innovate products that change lives, to leave a legacy that outlives them. Audacious goals require thinking differently, taking risks, and persevering in the face of setbacks. When failure comes, and it always will, the audacious goal provides a magnet that pulls you forward because it is bigger than fear, bigger than obstacles, bigger than doubt. Even in personal growth, audacious goals change the game. The person who decides not just to read occasionally, but to read a book a week, to learn new languages, to master skills that others avoid, is setting audacious goals for their mind. The one who chooses to transform their health completely, to run marathons, to eat and live with excellence, is setting audacious goals for their body. Ordinary goals maintain comfort. Audacious goals demand evolution. Every audacious goal comes with resistance. There will be people who doubt you, circumstances that challenge you, and inner fears that whisper you are not enough. But audacious goals force you to confront those challenges, to rise above them, and to prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. They create a life of momentum because the bigger the goal, the more focused, disciplined, and creative you must become. The audacious goal becomes the lens through which every choice, every action, every sacrifice is measured. Consider the artist who dreams of touching millions with their work. They could create small pieces that satisfy a few, but instead they aim to create something revolutionary, something that inspires generations. They study techniques relentlessly, practice daily, and push boundaries of their craft because ordinary goals do not inspire extraordinary effort. Audacious goals demand audacious action because only action aligned with vision produces impact. Audacious goals are also contagious. When you dare to dream big, people around you start to see what is possible. They are inspired to raise their own standards, to push past comfort, and to embrace challenges they would have otherwise avoided. The audacious goal transforms not only the dreamer, but the world around them because it sets a new standard, a new expectation, a new vision for what is achievable. Audacious goals do not guarantee an easy path, but they guarantee growth. They force you to develop discipline, courage, patience, and creativity. They awaken the potential that lies dormant within you. They demand that you refuse mediocrity, refuse fear, and refuse to accept the ordinary. When you set audacious goals, you are declaring that your life is meant for more, that you are capable of more, and that you will not settle for anything less than extraordinary. So many people live their lives unaware of how deeply the people around them shape their destiny. We are not islands, and the energy, mindset, and habits of those we spend the most time with inevitably influence our own. When you surround yourself with greatness, you tap into a power far greater than your individual effort. Greatness is contagious. The person who dreams of success, who desires growth, who refuses mediocrity, will find that the environment they cultivate is either a ladder that lifts them or a cage that limits them. It is a choice you make every day, whether you realize it or not. Consider the young professional entering a new career. If they choose to spend time only with colleagues who complain, gossip, and aim for the bare minimum, their growth will be stifled. Their ideas will be limited, their ambition dampened, and their confidence eroded. But if they actively seek mentors, colleagues who challenge them, and peers who excel, they begin to absorb habits, strategies, and mindsets that accelerate their progress. Greatness is not only learned through formal education or experience, it is absorbed through association, through constant exposure to people who operate at a higher level. Look at students in a classroom. Those who consistently spend time with classmates who study diligently, ask questions, and participate actively often find themselves performing at a higher level. They are inspired, challenged, and held accountable by the people around them. Those who spend time with distracted, disengaged classmates, however, rarely achieve their potential because their environment subtly conditions them to adopt the same mediocrity. The quality of your associations directly impacts the quality of your results. Parents demonstrate this daily in their choice of community. A child who grows up surrounded by people who dream, who achieve, who encourage learning and excellence, develops a mindset aligned with growth and ambition. A child in an environment of complacency, criticism, or negativity will struggle to envision a life beyond the limitations imposed by their surroundings. Greatness begins in the home and extends into the people we allow into our inner circle. It is nurtured when we intentionally place ourselves in spaces where ambition, discipline, and vision are the norm. Consider the entrepreneur who wants to scale a business. They could spend their time with friends who are content with routine jobs, limited dreams, and small talk. The result would be stagnation, doubt, and distraction. But the entrepreneur who surrounds themselves with other entrepreneurs, innovators, and strategic thinkers begins to see possibilities that were invisible before. Ideas are exchanged, strategies are refined, and motivation becomes inevitable. Greatness thrives in proximity to greatness because vision expands when nurtured by those who have walked the path, overcome challenges, and achieved excellence. Even in daily life, simple choices reveal the principle. The person who joins a fitness group, a reading club, or a community of creative people immediately elevates their standards. The discipline, the passion, the energy of others pushes them to do more, to go further, to refuse mediocrity. It is not a matter of competition, but of alignment. Your environment communicates what is possible, and those around you either expand or shrink your perception of yourself. Surround yourself with greatness, and your own greatness begins to emerge naturally. Look at athletes who train in teams. The runner who joins a group of dedicated, disciplined runners will find their speed, endurance, and focus improving. The solitary runner may work hard, but without the push of others who set higher standards, progress is limited. Greatness is amplified when surrounded by those who model excellence, challenge your limits, and inspire consistent effort. Association with greatness forces you to elevate your mindset because mediocrity cannot survive in the presence of extraordinary ambition. Friends also shape your vision. If your closest friends are quick to criticize, discourage, or doubt your dreams, they will quietly convince you that limitation is normal. If your friends celebrate your achievements, challenge you to improve, and encourage growth, they become catalysts for your success. Greatness is reinforced by connection. The conversations you have, the advice you receive, and the habits you adopt from those around you form an invisible scaffold for your future. Consider the artist seeking to master a craft. They could isolate themselves, following only their own intuition, or they could spend time with other skilled artists, learning techniques, sharing feedback, and challenging each other to reach new heights. The latter environment produces accelerated growth because excellence is modeled, mistakes are corrected, and inspiration becomes a constant companion. Surround yourself with greatness, and your creativity expands. Surround yourself with mediocrity, and even your talent is diminished. Surrounding yourself with greatness also requires courage. It may mean distancing yourself from family, friends, or colleagues who drain your energy or limit your vision. It may mean seeking mentors you admire, attending workshops, joining communities where ambition is celebrated, and actively seeking connections that stretch you. Greatness is not accidental, it is intentional. You are a reflection of those you spend the most time with, and if you desire extraordinary results, you must choose associations that reflect the level of excellence you aspire to achieve. So many people wait for the perfect moment to start. They wait for the ideal circumstances, the right opportunity, the flawless plan, or the absence of fear. They delay their dreams, postpone their goals, and tell themselves, I will start tomorrow. Yet tomorrow often never comes. Action is the currency of results. The person who acts now consistently and fearlessly steps into power because they understand that waiting is the enemy of progress and hesitation is the thief of dreams. Life does not reward those who wait, it rewards those who move, even imperfectly, toward their vision. Consider the young woman who dreams of starting her own business. She researches, plans, and prepares endlessly but never begins. She fears failure, criticism, or uncertainty. Meanwhile, someone else with less knowledge but more courage acts. They make mistakes, learn from them, adjust, and grow. Every day they delay, they lose momentum. Acting now means embracing imperfection, taking calculated steps forward, and learning through doing. Fear will always exist, but courage is acting despite fear. Look at students preparing for exams. The ones who consistently study a little every day rather than cramming at the last moment achieve far greater results. They do not wait for motivation or ideal conditions. They show up, review, practice, and revise without fail. Consistency builds mastery, and the courage to continue when the subject is difficult transforms effort into achievement. Acting now, even in small ways, compounds over time into knowledge, skill, and confidence. Consider the person wanting to improve health. The journey begins not with a perfect diet or a flawless workout routine, but with the first step. Choosing to walk instead of sit, choosing to drink water instead of soda, choosing to prepare a healthy meal instead of ordering fast food. Action breeds momentum. Consistent action creates habits. Fearless action pushes you past excuses, laziness, and the temptation to quit. The results are not immediate, but the trajectory is unstoppable for those who act without hesitation. Look at artists, writers, and creators. The person who dreams of publishing a book, recording music, or launching a project often waits until they feel ready or until conditions are perfect. The truth is, perfection is an illusion, and readiness is often delayed by fear. The person who acts now starts writing, creating, rehearsing, and sharing their work with the world. Mistakes become lessons, feedback becomes fuel, and momentum becomes the pathway to mastery. Acting consistently, despite imperfection, is what separates those who achieve from those who only dream. Even in daily life, small acts of fearless action make a difference. The person who speaks up at work with a new idea, volunteers in their community, or helps a neighbor in need demonstrates the power of acting without waiting for permission. These actions build confidence, influence, and leadership. When you act now, you create a ripple effect that inspires others and strengthens your own courage. Fear diminishes in proportion to action, and hesitation loses its grip as you repeatedly choose to move forward. Consider entrepreneurs who launch startups. The one who waits for perfect funding, perfect market conditions, or perfect timing may never start. The one who acts now tests the market, gathers feedback, and iterates fearlessly, learns faster, grows stronger, and ultimately succeeds. Consistency in action transforms small efforts into significant results, and courage in the face of uncertainty ensures progress even when the path is unclear. Those who hesitate too long watch opportunities pass, while those who act boldly create new realities. Parents demonstrate this principle daily in raising their children. They act consistently in teaching values, modeling behavior, and guiding decisions. The parent who delays discipline, education, or guidance because of fear, uncertainty, or tiredness risks long-term consequences. Acting now, consistently and fearlessly ensures that children see purpose, commitment, and courage in action, shaping their character and future. Leadership is learned by observing consistent, decisive action. Even in personal growth, action is everything. The person who wants to learn a new skill, overcome a bad habit, or change their mindset cannot wait for the perfect mood, inspiration, or motivation. They must act now. Each small step repeated consistently builds confidence, competence, and momentum. Fearless action transforms doubts into experience, inexperience into mastery, and hesitation into courage. The pattern becomes a lifestyle of achievement, resilience, and purpose. Fear is inevitable. Obstacles are unavoidable, and uncertainty is permanent. The extraordinary person does not eliminate these realities. They rise above them through decisive action. They do not wait for life to make sense, for opportunities to align, or for fear to vanish. They act now, consistently and fearlessly. Every step forward, every choice to engage rather than delay, every decision to risk failure for growth compounds into progress that eventually becomes undeniable results. Action is the language of purpose. Consistency is the engine of growth. And fearlessness is the key to breaking barriers and achieving the impossible. As we come to this moment, I want you to pause and look within yourself. Reflect on the life you have been living, the dreams you have whispered only to yourself, and the potential you have allowed to remain hidden. The truth is, you were not born to be average. The life you are living today is a reflection of your choices up to this moment, and the life you will live tomorrow depends on the decisions you make right now. You cannot wait for permission, validation, or the perfect timing. Your destiny is calling, and it demands that you rise. Imagine the person who decides today to refuse mediocrity. They may face doubt, fear, and criticism, But they will learn that greatness is forged in the fires of persistence and courage. You see, the world does not give opportunity. It gives challenges, and those who act consistently and fearlessly transform challenges into triumphs. The life of excellence is not reserved for a few lucky souls. It is reserved for those who are willing to see themselves differently, to take responsibility for their choices, and to embrace the extraordinary within them. Think about every story you have heard of success, every individual who has risen above circumstance, every innovator, leader, and visionary. None of them started perfect. They faced rejection, failure, and ridicule. Yet, they chose to persist. They refused to settle for the ordinary. They surrounded themselves with greatness. They disciplined themselves, and they acted boldly when the world said it was impossible. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain average is the willingness to push beyond fear, to take action despite doubt, and to believe fiercely in the value of their own potential. Let me remind you of something powerful. The journey to extraordinary begins in your mind. What you believe about yourself will dictate your actions, and your actions will determine your destiny. If you tell yourself you are ordinary, the world will agree with you. If you decide that your life is remarkable, that your potential is limitless, the universe begins to conspire with your vision. Your thoughts, your choices, and your consistency create momentum. Greatness is not accidental, it is intentional, deliberate, and fueled by courage. Consider the countless times you have allowed fear to stop you from speaking up, from trying, from stepping into your purpose. Fear is natural, but it is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that you are on the right path. Remember the words of the great leaders and thinkers. Do one thing every day that scares you. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. The best way to predict the future is to create it. These are not just words, they are a call to action. The moment you embrace fear as a compass, rather than a barrier, your potential begins to unfold. Look at the small choices you make each day. They are the foundation of your legacy. Choosing to learn rather than complain, to work rather than quit, to serve rather than take, to dream rather than settle. These choices compound into a life of influence, purpose, and impact. Greatness is built on the invisible, consistent, and disciplined actions that most people overlook. The person who persists when no one is watching, who continues when the world doubts them, who acts now when others hesitate, this is the person who changes the course of their life. I want you to imagine yourself 10 years from now, having embraced the extraordinary within you. The person you see in that vision is not the result of luck, but of deliberate decisions. They are the result of refusing to settle, taking responsibility, setting audacious goals, developing unstoppable discipline, acting consistently, surrounding themselves with greatness, and fearlessly pursuing their purpose. Every struggle, every setback, every criticism along the way becomes a stepping stone, and every small victory becomes a testament to your resilience. Never forget that the world needs you at your highest level. It does not need another average thinker, another passive dreamer, another follower who waits for someone else to lead. It needs you to step boldly, to shine relentlessly, and to contribute uniquely. Greatness is not just about personal success. It is about the impact you leave, the lives you touch, the inspiration you provide, and the legacy you build. Your potential is a gift, and your responsibility is to ensure it does not go unnoticed or unused. Remember, the ordinary person talks about what they will do. The extraordinary person acts, and their actions speak louder than words. The person who changes their life refuses to wait, refuses to give excuses, and refuses to be defined by circumstances. They know that every sunrise brings a new opportunity to create, to lead, to excel, and to inspire. The difference between those who dream and those who achieve is action taken today, consistently and courageously, despite fear or uncertainty. So I challenge you today, right now, in this moment, to rise above the limitations you have imposed on yourself. Refuse to settle for mediocrity. Embrace responsibility for your life. Set audacious goals that stretch your mind and spirit. Cultivate discipline so unstoppable that nothing can derail your focus. Surround yourself with greatness, those who lift, inspire, and challenge you to become more. And above all, act now consistently and fearlessly, for your dreams cannot wait, and your life's purpose cannot be postponed. Know this: your life is too valuable to be ordinary, your vision is too important to be small, and your potential is too great to be hidden. The world is waiting for your courage, your brilliance, and your contribution. You are not born to follow the crowd. You were born to lead, to inspire, and to create a legacy that will outlast you. The extraordinary life you desire, the success you deserve, the impact you can make, all begin with your decision to step into your power today. Listen carefully to these words. You are capable of more than you have been told, stronger than your fears, wiser than your doubts, and destined for more than ordinary. Do not let delay, hesitation, or fear steal another day of your potential. Greatness is not an accident, it is a choice, and the choice is yours. Refuse to be average, embrace your responsibility, act boldly, and let the life you create become a testament to the extraordinary person you are always meant to be.